want to ask you like a sneak peek on your type of training, how you generally like program the strongman training in general.
So generally I like to do kind of 3-week blocks and then do kind of like a deload week. But I was doing strongman on every Saturday leading up to the contest, even if it was a deload week. So maybe during the week, Monday through Friday, I would take off.
Okay.
But that Saturday I was always training, just because you have, of course, more time off work, and again, you can take your time running through the implements, and especially setting up some of those implements and setting up some of those events can take a lot of time. But generally with the axle, a lot of it was kind of working a lot of like muscle cleans and power cleans leading up to that, and also doing, of course, a lot of push presses off the blocks. And I enjoy kind of doing, of course, kind of like heavy push presses off the blocks. A lot of times is so you don't have to catch the weight down onto the rack position.
Yeah.
And that's almost an exercise in itself, catching the weight every time. So the block takes that kind of impact, and you're always in that concentric piece when in terms of always focusing on the movement up and not focusing on strength in terms of like catching the weight necessarily. When it comes to like I would say certain events, so it depends on, really, like a lot of time in programming really depends on your strengths and weaknesses. So I knew, of course, maybe 6-7 weeks out, I knew that, of course, my axle was a big strength, but some of the other events needed more work. So I, of course, worked more time on like the moving events. Deadlifting in the past has generally been a tough event for me, so I worked that about once, or at least sometimes twice a week. But I probably would have some extra deadlift sessions where I would do like maybe trap bar during the week, and then use a car deadlift implement to maybe load up with tires and weights to kind of simulate, of course, doing the car deadlift. We ended up using a Dodge Charger, but or Challenger. But for the most part, I would say, again, you really want to, the program really comes down to what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then you got to, again, kind of accommodate. So sometimes I do certain events or stuff for events maybe twice a week to really get strong. Again, you don't want to give up points across the board. You want to be, again, pretty proficient across the board with all the events.
Maybe like someone like try to, I don't know, buy the program of like Thor or the big ones that, okay, is interesting, see how they train and how they do. But I think it's really important build a program on the person. And I found really interesting the work on the jerk block and the work on the tsunami bar. That is quite like strange for me, like especially the weightlifting on the tsunami bar. I want to ask you, before, you have a weightlifting background before strongman?
Not necessarily before strongman. I started weightlifting at the same time as strongman. So I started competing in 2012, and I probably started training Olympic lifting at the same time doing strongman in 2013. So of course, the first maybe 6 months or so, I took it on my own. But also there was some within the greater Boston area, there were a few Russian weightlifting coaches that, of course, taught many different students and athletes. So I would go down there and, of course, kind of work my technique. Generally, my snatch wasn't the best, but of course, I really kind of took to the power cleans and split jerks and a lot of the movements in terms of having like a great leg drive and, again, having good rack position and being able to lock the weights out. I think those were great items to kind of carry over. And then I would treat, of course, a lot of those kind of press movements or just the technique aspect of Olympic training towards kind of my strongman implements into my strongman training. And that, I think that really kind of made a big difference, especially when you can, of course, kind of split jerk and really push yourself under the implements. But I think because at one point I got really good at, of course, training the split jerk, I think that really, again, helps. Even when I go back to the push press, and my leg drive is used to, of course, really heavy weights. So of course, when I go down, I have a really efficient leg drive, even when I do like a push press. So I think in terms of like any good strongman or anybody that's aspiring to be a very good strongman, I think it's really important to have I'll say a strong strict press, a push press, and then do some sort of type of jerk. You don't necessarily have to do a split jerk, but do like a power jerk or a push jerk. Squat jerk, maybe not really. I think squat jerking under implement might be kind of dangerous, but I would say the other three might be pretty, I would say pretty useful. So I think even in my kind of, also kind of like the coaching that I've done, I think that's what I would kind of recommend is working all of those three movements, but generally picking a jerk. You don't want to do all three. You don't want to be messing around all three of them. So I think kind of taking the time and figure out which jerk is the right one for you is pretty important. And then of course you're asking about kind of like the tsunami bar a little bit. So it was interesting just because I generally use it. People, I would say a lot. There's kind of some misconceptions. Sometimes they think it's that something that you have to use all the time, something that you have to use maybe every once in a while. But I think I have a kind of a general mix. But like leading up to the contest, I had, let's just say in the last say 7 weeks or so. So I had like a 3-week training block where I was doing push presses off the blocks, and then I took a deload week. And again, I would do like some light split jerks. And then the last 2 weeks on my main press days, I was actually using the tsunami bar. So I think when it comes to the tsunami bar, I think there's a lot of different things where I kind of like, but I think one, if you're able to really hit heavy weights on the tsunami bar, I think that's really going to translate to really any type of a good kind of strongman pressing movements. Because again, it really forces you to one, use really good form. But like if you, for instance, your leg drive or knee band is wrong, you're gonna that bar is gonna kind of humble you. They're gonna push you forward or gonna push you backwards. The other piece is the kind of stability. So of course you really have to kind of engage your core to keep it going. But also it allows you to, like at some points, I think I can move faster with a tsunami bar, just given the bend and the oscillation compared to a regular bar. So it allows your body to kind of be pressing into a heavier movements. But and then I would say that it has different sticking points compared to a regular bar. So for instance, fighting the inertia to come back up, and also kind of like the lockout and really sticking the lockout, because once you'll hit the lockout, and then the weight comes back to to oscillate right back to bend. So really sticking that out, and then again, especially like in weightlifting, you want to have a great kind of rotation kind of in the shoulders. So you're really using your scapulas instead of just your shoulders and triceps to lock out the weight. So again, it goes back to the point of like reinforcing the form. And again, if you're able to really kind of perfect that, then you can really kind of drive the speed. And then of course, come game day, it felt great, and again, it just felt really smooth. But like whenever I want to go for, I would say kind of like a heavy max, I generally will build the power off the blocks, and then we'll do 1 or 2 sessions with the tsunami bar. And I feel like that combination really gets me ready for. Like
the overhead stability and the lockout stability is one of the most important thing for the overhead, right? As I understood, you really focus on the perfection of the lift and the stability in general. I was watching the video. Maybe the tsunami bar is a little bit like soft on the upper chest. So when you have to do a lot of axle, it's really stressing the shoulder and all the upper part. Maybe like also using a tsunami bar can like deload a little bit the upper chest.
I would say absolutely. There's definitely, it's not as kind of impactful, because generally at times if you're bringing it down, it'll bend especially if you're doing like press and go reps, it'll almost like bend, or you have to keep that good rack position. So again, it forces you to keep that good rack, but it almost bends around your clavicle. So overall, I would say it's in some aspects, and of course they use this more in like the high school and college levels, the application of the tsunami bar. But again, it can be a good way to, in some respects, to kind of deload, but not overstress the movement.
I noticed that a lot of big strongmen, like after Brian Shaw, Hadiol did the Axel Wood record, like basically like strict pressing the axle. So you think that the pro strongmen have to like work on the Olympic technique? I don't know, like try to build like some kind of like jerk or split jerk as Rob Kearney do generally, like for like try to, I don't know, reach higher, like
that's a good question, and it's a little, and I think it goes back to like other kind of like different debates. Like for instance with Thor, his push press technique, he's a heavy on the knee bend, and he almost pushes the weight backwards like he's falling over. But I think when he did the axle record, I think he got up there. I think Eddie has the axle record currently, but I'm not sure him and Eddie tied. I kind of forget, but he hit up to like 460, or he did what he needed to do to like get good points and win the contest.
Kilos, I don't know in pounds.
But the thing is, like, it's like there's really no need for like Eddie and Thor to like develop a split jerk or improve their push press, because they're already always like either one or two when they come to like pressing events. So they're very skilled pressing. And I think it's if there was a need for them, again, like if the competition got to the point where it was pushing them that they were losing a lot of points in the press, I think then that's when they would build that adaptation. But they're already and again at their peaks like 200 kilo monsters, so they did more of the conservative movement of either doing the strict press or just doing the light push press, and they're hitting close again, like on the axle, they're hitting the world record, and even Eddie had a good chance at one point at the log record. Yeah. I think he got it off his chest, so he was like, there's no really, again, it's like it takes again learning all the technique and learn the adaptation or adapting to again the heavy weights. Again, it's great and all, but if there's no need for them to do it because on their own merits, just in terms of like pushing the volume, pushing the weight, of course, probably getting the high caloric intake, they're already able to hit those heavy weights. Then again, for the most part, they're able to just to kind of go on their own merit. But I would say, like, if they could do it again and they really develop a kind of Olympic background, would they probably do more weight? Absolutely. But it really depends on if you need to. Like, I think my split jerk developed because I needed to develop in order to compete. So a lot of times it's even in strongman, it just, even when it comes to an actual contest, it's like some guys just want to win the contest, but like sometimes you need to put yourself in like, you need to win this contest in order to be successful. And then I think that sometimes where you get to the point. So I think that it really depends on needs and wanting.
Yeah, I did this question just because like I was watching the new generation of strongmen, like say Novikov or other ones that are quite smaller, but have like an elite level like performance. Even Anthony, I think that he tries to compete in the open class, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So he had a good stretch on the open class. Of course, he ran into a couple of injuries, but of course, I think
I know.
Potentially one day he'll come back.
Yeah. So like I was wondering if maybe like the new kind of open class strongman will be just the 105 class, a little bit like bigger and with a lot of technique in Olympic weightlifting and in strongman events in general. Because some kind of pro strongmen, they are like big and strong, but sometimes I saw they don't care about the technique. I don't know if is right to say that, but what you think about?
I think just as the sport evolved, again, there's always going to be more technique.
Yep.
And better techniques used by the competitors. And of course, like Novikov is an interesting example because he started strongman at a really young age. So he probably did maybe 100 competitions before he was 18, right? And I think that's kind of really important. So I think as the sport evolves, you're going to have, of course, sons of former competitors starting strongman at a younger age. So I think you're going to have a lot of these guys coming into the sport, because in the past, people came into strongman coming from another sport. So like Brian Shaw and even Thor, both like basketball players. And then of course there's many different examples. Even myself, I started when I was 22, but I was a former wrestler, and then I joined the sport. But I think again, as the sport evolves, you're going to have other individuals coming at a earlier entry point. So maybe starting at 13 or 14 rather than 22 or 23 or 24. So I think that's really going to change the sport. And then again, like Novikov has great technique in everything he does. He's also I believe he grew up around like strongman. I think his grandfather was the head of the Ukrainian Strongman Federation, so he was able to kind of live, breathe, and of course trained with some of the best strongmen. So if that's everything, if that's all you know when you're kind of growing up, and that's something that you want to strive towards, of course, you can be really great. So I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see a lot of that, like a lot of other Novikovs coming up. And of course, not only Ukraine, but of course, all different countries. You're seeing, of course, strongmen starting very much earlier at a time right now in the United States, and of course in England and of course kind of other European countries. So I think it should be interesting. But back to, I would say, kind of your main point. I think again, whenever I would say kind of new techniques come around, and of course individual put that on display, there's always kind of like a copycat kind of scheme. So that I think over time, more technique, and there's going to be less instances where you can't just rely on just pure strength and size. You're going to have to put in the work, determination, hire the coaches, work on the recovery, and really be that all-around athlete.
And like the last question I want to ask you, like we spoke about like the Novikov and all the other strongmen, and which is your peak for these 2021 World's Strongest Man?
Of course, I haven't quite kind of thought about it, but I think right now, I think kind of Novikov is kind of on I would say he's probably my number one right now. I think he's on kind of a right now kind of hitting his stride. So of course, I think when he won the World Ultimate Strongman in of course earlier in the year, I think a lot of that was something to prove, because I think a lot of people had it in his ear that it was just a fluke because certain people weren't there. But I think of course, I got the pleasure of competing with him in the Arnold Amateur 2018, and of course I watched him move, and I would just say this guy moves differently. He
it's not the same.
Moves. It's not the same compared with what I've seen. So I knew he was kind of special, kind of right away. So I would say that as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be kind of one of the podium spots. Of course, Tom Stoltman is going to be, I think, do probably very well coming back. I think it'll be interesting. I think I'll put him in my top 5. We'll see if he can, I would say, kind of repeat. So I think sometimes that was kind of his first kind of big podium, and a lot of times people can get a little complacent after that. But again, we'll see how long as his grip has come a long way. I think he would have potentially won if his grip wasn't where it was last year, especially on that Hercules hold. And then of course, I'm always kind of rooting for, I would say, a lot of the Americans. But I would say I think again you have guys like kind of Karan, again top there. I think Evan Singleton is going to be. I think his training's been looking great, but he's also kind of I would say not as experienced competitor as some of the other guys there. So I think it'll be interesting how he does. But I could see him in the finals. Of course, of course we'll see Shaw in the finals. And then
like the big return of Travis Ottmeyer also, like
I've been of course been talking to Travis. I've been helping him on his press lately, but of course if he's able just to kind of be well rounded going into the contest, I think he'll do very well on that end. But who are your picks for World's Strongest Man, or your top 5?
Like my top 5, I think that in the podium have to be like Novikov for sure. I'm quite sure that he will won another year. He is strong, but I think also in the Ultimate Strongman, I saw a lot of intelligent. He is really smart guy that always think about all the minimum thing for get like I don't know like an inch more, or like a rep more. So I think that he deserved the podium. Also the Stolton brothers, they're doing the great job about the preparation. I'm quite sure about Tom. If the grip of last year is get better, maybe can do more, maybe one. And I'm sorry, I'm I'm a Brian Shaw fan, so
Of
I have
course.
to say Brian Shaw. Even if the last year didn't go so well, I hope that he can do great. Also, Evan Singleton is really good. Is really hungry on the podium and on the competition. And I don't know, maybe like Caron or also Grammys could do like good. Is going really good on the pressing and also on the static events.
Yeah,
Um,
Graham is a former 105 kilo
yeah,
athlete. I think for a while, I think he had the 170 kilo record
yeah,
for 105 kilo. I'm not sure if that's still the record for England. I don't know if or actually no, I think maybe Tom Hibbert might have broke that. But of course, yeah, I'm excited to see how Graham does. And I know he took like he won British Strongest Man, and he had to take some time off
yeah.
from competing. But I'm excited to see how he does.
Yeah, I was really interesting about his log in the last World's Strongest Man. I was really sad about the injury because I think that he really can do a big log press. And about your log press, you think that you can like push even more than the axle, or
I would say that historically it's generally been maybe a little less than what my axle is. Again, I haven't really pushed I didn't put, I might have had another 10, 15 pounds in the axle from the, of course, competing the other day. But
yeah,
again, if you don't need to, you don't, I already had the world record. I didn't need to kind of keep pushing it there. But it would be interesting. I would say, again, I haven't had the opportunities. I have more opportunities to do the max. In competition, my best is 370, but I would say maybe right now I could be close pushing to like 400. The record is 410 by Rob Kearney for
yeah.
105 kilo in the world. So I would hope if I get the opportunity, I would definitely hopefully put a good training cycle to potentially break that. So I think that would be pretty neat to hold multiple press records, especially the log is. Well, I would say axle is cool, but I think the log is a little more iconic. So
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course I'd
yeah.
be excited to potentially have an opportunity to break that.
So I hope that you can also like achieve that goal and maybe like do a vacation in Italy and try to break here this log record. Really thank you, Nicholas.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Thank
Luigi.
you
Of
very
course, a
much.
pleasure. Talk soon.